Welcome everyone to another episode from Ampro Engineering. In this episode, we're going to focus on the Tamiya Lancia 037 body. In this case here, it's the vintage one. And we're going to start with this one here just because I want to point out how it looks currently, but the work that we're going to do will be on my re-release, which is on the TA02 chassis, but it was also available, I believe, on the TA03. The rear panel of the car is what we're going to be focusing on. This version here is the rally spec model, and the rally spec models and the street versions were a little bit different. One of the differences was that at the rear, instead of having the round lights and basically an all mesh rear panel, they had a horizontal light that was pulled directly from the Lancia Monte Carlo, or in the United States, the Lancia Scorpion. So this is what I have got here. So here's the new rear panel. Here are the trim pieces for the taillights. Here are the taillights, and here are the fog lights at the rear. These are all printed in Polyjet from Shapeways. On the road version of the 037, this whole panel was painted red, and that was because they were only available in red, despite the fact that mine is blue. This panel here is not flat. It has an ever so slight curve. I found that it seems to be flatter than it should be after coming in from Shapeways, and I suspect that it's because of how it was packaged. It's kind of flattened out a bit. I'm not too worried about it because this thing is rather flexible, so it should adhere in its original orientation nevertheless. I'm going to paint this part black, but again, if you're going to go for an on-road look, you would want this to be body color. These are the trim pieces here. I'm going to paint these in chrome, which is how they are on the actual car or on the Monte Carlo. And then the taillights. So the taillights, amber. This whole section here is red, and this section here is clear. The reason why there is this kind of void here at the rear is because the street car, as well as the Monte Carlo and the Scorpion, this is a reflector. And then here we have the rear fog lamps, so we'll install these as well. The first thing we want to do with all of these parts here is scrub them in a detergent soap. And that's because this is a Polyjet print, and Polyjet prints have a support material that tends to leave kind of a sticky film. The removal process is usually pressure washing. I have seen some water-soluble support materials. I don't know what Shapeways is using, but it's just insurance, okay? You spent a lot of money on these parts. You want to make sure that the paint actually adheres. And I have had instances early on where I just sprayed right over it and it kind of fish eyes. So we don't want to deal with that. Take a toothbrush, some dishwashing detergent, scrub everything down. I will be back with all of these painted and the car that they're going to go on. Everything has been painted. So you can see the rear panel. As I mentioned previously, this is technically a body color part, but that's a toy car. So I want it black, and that's what I have done. These are the fog lamps. And as you notice the fog lamps, the keen observer may have noticed what I have done, or should I say, haven't done. Basically, in my rush to send this out to Shapeways, I forgot something critical, and that would have been the texture to apply. That looks good. That, whoops. Anyway, production models will have this texture shown here. These are the trim pieces here, which I've painted in a chrome. I did use this chrome pen here, which I really, really like. Now, I do want to cut it, snip right here. And then we're going to take the corresponding light there and just push that in here and seat it all the way down like the factory one would have been. I did paint the light up portion silver, then I painted it black, and the silver is there for reflectivity and the black is there to help prevent light bleed. Okay. So we'll just pop this in place like that. And then the last thing to do would be to install those into the body. Should just go right in. There you go. Don't force anything, please, because these are Polyjet printed parts. And that's the last thing you want to do is break something. So if they don't go in, you may need to do a little tiny bit of trimming. Oh, I see what's going on. I'm actually pushing it out right there a little bit. So we'll just shave that down a tad. Okay, just use the side of the X-Acto knife. And that should have trimmed just enough away. Yeah, there you go. Just a little bit of a lead in. Oh, yes. Same thing over here. So these we're going to have to drill a couple holes in the body. As I mentioned previously, to install this on the 037 body, you will have to cut out the inside lip here. Obviously, I've done that already because this car has had the other Ampro rear panel, but now we'll get the one that it was always designed to have, this one here. So let's pull the body off. We'll drill a couple holes here, completely ruining the value even further, and then we'll try and patch it all back together. With the rear panel fully assembled, what I'm going to do is hold this together with a dab of hot glue. For the fog lamps, I used a 1.5, 3, 4.5, and then finally a 6.25 millimeter bit to make these two holes. I just looked at the photographs and eyeballed where they're supposed to go, and that worked out beautifully. So we'll just shove that on in. The reason I used all those different sizes was to make sure that I got the accuracy exactly where I needed and didn't damage the body accidentally using one of the larger bits that perhaps would wander. Right now, I'm going to have to bond these with the hot glue. So I'm going to do that real quick off camera because I need to have my senses about me, and we'll be right back. So I put hot glue just along the perimeter, dabs on the side there, and just note that, again, the curvature of the rear panel, this is intended to conform to. So if yours does arrive flat, it wasn't designed flat, it was just printed, curved, and then when they shipped it, they just rolled it into a flat piece of bubble wrap, and that's kind of what happened, but it'll very happily reconform to that shape. Let's put the body back on the car. That's just fantastic. I'm just trying to imagine what it would have looked like if I had the texture on there, but man, oh man, the overall look is just fantastic. I'm telling you, if I had a real one, this is how it would look, 100%. So let's see how it looks when we hit the brake. Signal. Reverse. Now you probably saw the fog lights flash, and the reason they just flashed is I actually wired them up to the, ignore all the lights flashing on the car. I think I'm in the wrong setting on the radio. I wired the fog lights up to the only blank spot on the cheap controller, and that makes them turn on when you accelerate like quarter throttle. I'm sure you've noticed the taillights have changed slightly. What we're seeing now is the production version of the 037 Lancia taillights. So these are textured, which will help dissipate the light a little bit better and get a little more of a scale appearance versus how it was before. You can see if we, with the signals, much nicer light distribution there. We'll hit the reverse lights there, brakes, fog lights, if you want the fog lights on at the rear. If we kill the lights here, real nice glow coming out of these guys. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I've been dying to do these taillights for quite some time. And now that they are all finished, there is a link in the description to the Shapeways page where you can find these taillights. Just remember, be very careful and take your time when cutting out the entire back panel of this car, especially if, like myself or some other people that have tried this already, your car is finished. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.